Hi, Jenni here. What do you do when your favorite author disappoints you with their book? So I started reading Jenni Colgan in my teens, maybe about 17 years old, and it was one of the first books that I read in English, Little Beach Street Bakery, and it tells the story of Polly, who leaves a big city in the UK and moves to Scotland to start a bakery there. And that's kind of the main plot of many of her books. She has written plethora of books, but many of them are about a woman leaving a big city to a small Scottish town, and they are very cozy, feel-good type of literature. And I just remember absolutely loving this one. I haven't read this again since reading it at 17, so maybe it would have aged out a little bit, but at the time I really loved this one. I also enjoyed the subsequent parts to this Little Beach Street Bakery series, such as Summer at Little Beach Street Bakery and Christmas at the Little Street Bakery. Again, like very cozy and feel good atmosphere in each book, and the characters are really lovable, especially the main character Polly. And it was this series that made me a fan of her work and made her one of my favorite authors. Then Jenni Colgan also released a spin-off into this series where Polly is not the main character, but she is in that story as well, Sunrise by the Sea. This is about Marisa Rossi, who decides to leave, I think it was London, to have some time off and relax in Scotland. She has really bad anxiety, and this story is about her like learning how to live with it, and I felt really seen by this, and I thought this book was very well written. So at this point, Jenni Colgan remained one of my favorite authors because I love this book so much. I also have these two random Jenni Colgan books that I have read, but they are parts of a series that I have not read fully. They didn't really make sense to me. So A Very Distant Shore and An Island Christmas. When I bought them, I didn't realize that they were parts of series, but they are. So I'm just gonna put those away. Then after that, I read The Christmas Bookshop by Jenni Colgan, and here the main character Carmen is completely lost in her life. She loses her job, she's living at home, she's just a mess, but her sister is absolutely perfect. I think she's a lawyer, has a big house, several children, is married. Carmen doesn't feel good about herself, and she's quite mean at times, a bit condescending towards other people. But then she starts working at this Christmas bookshop and things start to get better for her. Before the job, she moved in with her sister. And yeah, it's a very interesting study on this character who is flawed, who is not very likable at times, but you're still rooting for her, and it had a very beautiful ending. So yes, I love The Christmas Bookshop, and yes, once again, Jenni Colgan remained my favorite author. Then this is where things started to fraction a little bit, if I can say that. She released the Killing Thief series, which is in the vein of the other books as well, that a woman who lives in a big city leaves, comes to this fictional town of Killing Thief in Scotland and tries to figure out her life there. The first one, The Bookshop on the Corner, here Nina is a librarian who lives in a city once again, but then her library closes and she's left without a job, and then she moves to this Killing Thief fictional town, and there she buys a former boss or some kind of van and starts running a bookshop there. I think it was fine. It was nothing revolutionary or nothing special to me, in my opinion. To me, Little Beach Street Bakery was absolutely lovely, as well as was Christmas Bookshop, but this one didn't really live up to that writing and atmosphere that I was expecting from Jenni Colgan. Then continuing on to this Killing Thief series is The Bookshop on the Shore. So here Zoe is a single mother struggling to cope alone in London. Her little boy Harry is the light of her life but refuses to speak, and the landlord has just raised the rent on her flat. So when the opportunity arises to move to Scotland help run a bookshop, Zoe leaps at it. So she goes to work at the bookshop that's run by the main character of the first book. She also then moves in with a family which consists of a dad, 2 children, or 3. I don't remember, honestly, but children and their housekeeper. The mom, nowhere to be seen. There was something I found iffy in this book. I think the way the children were talked about was a bit weird to me because they were not represented in a way that children usually are written about. I don't know how to explain it, and I don't remember much from this book, and sadly I did not write notes after reading this, so that sucks. But I just remember that children characters were written in a very weird way. So this was a disappointment. I had written notes in both of these books. So this is the first one in Kirin Fifth series. And I wrote, Jenni is one of my favorite authors, but this was a disappointment. Some of the writing was outdated. I didn't think main character and love interest had chemistry. I like Surinder. Surinder was the best friend of the main character. And then here Surinder is the sister of Zoe's baby daddy. And here I had written, I don't know, it is not the Jenni Colgan I fell in love with, but it wasn't bad. Better than the first book of the series. Had a more full-fledged plot, But I don't like the use of mental health as plot twists, that they are there only as dramatic spin. So it was nice. So now I remember that, like, the mother of the family that Zoe stays in, she had mental health issues. And one of the children, the daughter, was kind of showing some of the similar symptoms as her mother. And I just didn't like the way it was written, you know, as someone with mental health issues. Okay, back to the video. But then I read 500 Miles from You. And in this, Lisa loves her job as a nurse, but recently she's been doing a better job of looking after other people than looking after herself. Overwhelmed after a traumatic incident at work, she agrees to swap lives with someone in a quiet village in Scotland. Just out of the army, Cormac is desperately in need of distraction, and there is a precious little of it in Kirin Fifth. Maybe 3 months in London is just what he needs. So basically Lisa and Cormac have correspondence after they swap places. For Cormac, at first it's really difficult to get used to city life, and for Lisa as well, but I thought that was such an interesting concept and something completely new from Jenni Colgan that I really liked this book. And the characters were likable. Yeah, I really enjoyed this new type of writing from Jenni Colgan. So while I felt disinterested in Jenni Colgan after those 2 books, it was brought back after this book. So I wasn't giving up on her being my favorite author just yet. She published the continuation, Midnight at Christmas Bookshop, to the first Christmas Bookshop book. And I was thrilled because I loved that book. And I couldn't wait to be again with the characters that I found so interesting in the first book. And basically she just undid everything that happened in the first book. Carmen was still irritating, mean, sometimes annoying, and irresponsible. I understand that life is a roller coaster, it's tumultuous, it's not gonna be this direct upward way all the time, but it was frustrating to read this growth of a character and understanding her situation and then seeing her develop from that, and they have all of that undone in the second book. Like, it was so frustrating. Like, what was the point of reading the first book if it's gonna be undone in the sequel? Basically, the plot of the book was that Carmen overstayed her welcome at her sister's place, so she kind of kicks her out. She tries to find a new place to live. She moves on to live at the Christmas bookshop. So basically it's a shop downstairs, and then upstairs is the store that the owner of the bookshop lives, and she rents out a room there. And it was just a very disappointing book to me because I didn't really like Carmen this time. Like, yes, she was unlikable in the first book as well, but I could understand where she was coming from. In this book, I could not understand her at all. This was also the first time that I at least know of that Jenni Colgan has featured queer characters in her book. She may have featured them in another book, I don't know about that, but this was my first time reading queer characters from her. Reminder, I am bisexual. And you know, the way I felt while reading it was that these queer characters, some of them, were described and presented in a very overtly sexual way. Now, being sexual is not wrong. We love it. We support it. But to me, it seemed like it was Jenni Colgan's first time writing queer characters, and she chose a very stereotypical way to do that. So that felt icky and left a bad taste in my mouth. There was also this scene of one character being like, you can't say anything anymore. And then people having a discussion about that, which was fine, but could have been a lot better. Again, there is nothing wrong with characters being very sexual and confident in their sexuality and like exuding sexuality. That's all fine and well, but when it's your first time writing queer characters and this is what you represent, I don't know, it felt iffy to me. It might not feel iffy to you. I was thoroughly disappointed in this book, and I gave it away right away because I didn't want it to even have on my shelf. So now I'm at this point where I don't really consider her as my favorite author anymore, but it's still difficult because her books meant so much to me, especially as a young reader. It's hard to kind of admit when your favorite author disappoints you and then you don't consider them as your favorite anymore. I don't think I'm gonna check out any more Jenni Colgan books, at least for the time being, because I feel like I've read enough of her books to see what type of author she is, what kind of stories she brings. Yes, they are cozy and feel good and wonderful, but I feel like I've seen enough of what she has to deliver. Alright, have you ever felt disappointed by your favorite author? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!